Hey everybody, Alex Newman here with Conversations That Matter for the New American Magazine. It's great to have you with us, and we have an incredible guest with us today. You guys know that the creepy stuff going on in the public schools is outrageous. It's an affront to human decency. And I was at a pastors' conference just a couple of weeks ago, and I met this phenomenal lady who knew so much about these things that I didn't think anybody else knew about, social emotional learning and what was going on with the manipulation of children. And she has showed me some stuff that just had my jaw on the ground. So with us today, we have Marsha Metzger. She's the director of Choose Now, Inc. It's a nonprofit group in Georgia that advocates for families and for children. They look for gatekeepers in the community to try to identify and expose this wild stuff that's in the school curricula. She's been serving children and families throughout her life. She's been involved in ministry. She's been involved with a number of organizations: Protect Student Health Georgia, Protect Child Health Coalition. She's also director for Protect Our Children Project for Hamilton County, Florida. And she's done so many things. She's also taught abstinence in the public schools years ago up in Pennsylvania. Marsha, thank you for being with us. And let's start off with just the basics. What is social emotional learning? I mean, everybody knows it's the new buzzword. It's in all the schools. It's supposed to be so great. It's going to help our children be social and understand their emotions and just be better, well-rounded people, right? What could be wrong with that?
Well, thank you so much for having me today, Alex. Social emotional learning, it is pretty much engineered from outcome-based education, and it's really just a new term for an old thing. There is a lot of good things that you can do when you think about social and emotional benefits for children, for them to learn. And, we create victims in this society, so we have to make customers for our educational purposes. And social emotional learning, from what I'm finding out, is just a way to bring in a host of information that functions much like a Trojan horse to bring in a bunch of the ideologies that we've been discussing and you've been hearing about in all of these school board meetings throughout the country, whether it's critical race theory, whether it is the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, all of these different things. They're ideologies that are delivered to the schools through this system that parents do not know hardly anything about.
So let's go back to outcome-based education. I think unless somebody's really followed very closely the education debate over the last few decades, that's probably an unfamiliar term for a lot of people. Explain to us, what is outcome-based education and what's the problem with it? Don't we want good outcomes for the children? Shouldn't we set outcome goals and then encourage the children to meet those?
We do want good outcomes, Alex. Pretty much when you take it back to the Common Core education and all of these different items that have come through over the past, they're all related. Outcome-based education, there's measurements on these students determining what they're going to be in society, how we're going to measure the collective good for all of this human capital that we want to develop for our society. So it's a big social construct that is going on, and it's just terminology that they've used over time. One of the things that I like to do when I look at social emotional learning together, and I think about over the years how all of this has come about and how confused our students have become over how they're educated through their mathematics and everything else. When I'm looking at social emotional learning today, it is pretty much focused on all of these soft terms of socialistic constructs, and it's a lot less of the academic things that we need. So when I think about social emotional learning, the word that I come up with now is Trojan Horse, just to usher in ideology to the schools, and it's the same thing from before.
Yeah. So how do they usher in these ideologies, and what kind of ideologies? I mean, what kind of ideas and worldviews are they teaching our children?
Well, they're teaching things that would be in direct opposition to our any kind of traditional Judeo-Christian beliefs. Anything, the comprehensive sex education, adverse kinds of ideology with it. I mean, when you are a person that brings your child up with traditional values, and you have your children introduced to transgenderism or to any of the LGBTQ ideologies. There's also within these, they're teaching mindfulness, which it's good to have mindfulness and to calm yourself. But when you're using mantra and anything from like Hindu or Buddhism, that's going to be one of the ideologies that does not belong in a school in a pluralistic society. When you think about all of the different people that come into a public school system, and you start bringing along all of these ideologies that are contradictory to our family values, you're going to leave these students in such a cognitive dissonance culturally that they're not going to know who to believe, and it's going to confuse them. So all of these things that are coming through, I mean, we have schools, not mental health clinics, and also this is going into the spiritual realm and doing spiritual formation with our children. The questions they're being asked in these social emotional learning programs can convey how a family thinks about things. They can measure that data in a host of different ways. And one time I watched one of your interviews before, Alex, and you said something to the effect of, it is a brain numbing, big, huge, just brain numbing program that they've brought in. And that's exactly what it is. I could talk about it for days, and it's so huge, it's even hard to get a grasp on where to start and how to bring it to the public. I have questions. They have call to action assignments. Let me just kind of narrow it down to that for just a minute. Imagine at the end of every chapter that you have in social emotional learning, and every one of them says call to action assignment. Well, here we are developing a little activist almost. Call to action. How do I interview this particular person and then make a report on it? So they'll have them interview someone that's not like them. So it's like when you look at one of the call to action assignments here, it's about LGBTQ, and it's saying something to the effect of, you know, it's like asking them, in order to build understanding and respect toward LGBTQ people and related issues in your school and community, it's important to be educated on the history of it and exposed to viewpoints that will expand your own. The first step is becoming clear and confident about who you are personally. Then you will become open-minded and accepting of who other people are. It is normal to sometimes be critical or judgmental of others who do not think or act like we do. However, this is a mindset that can be unlearned and improved. The goal is to achieve a safe and inclusive environment for everyone to be comfortable being their authentic selves. Okay, so you have a student that's being taught that they need to unlearn and improve their thoughts against something that their parents may have been teaching them all along is not correct or even sinful or whatever their traditional values would dictate in that family. Because I know not everyone is Christian, but when we're presenting sexually explicit materials or alternate lifestyles in schools, you know, this is going to create that cultural conflict between worldviews presented in the school and fostered and values that are fostered by the parents. So it'll create that cultural dissonance I was speaking to. So these are the things, and at the end of every one of these chapters, they have a call to action assignment. You write about it, and these big data collectors collect it. So let's talk about one of those data collectors. I have been involved in open record requests because when the pandemic hit, my job ceased. The possibilities of me getting in the schools and doing guest speaking, which you can well imagine because of the pandemic. So anyway, I took the time and I started doing open record requests on schools all throughout South Georgia. And when I started looking, I found this one program called Edgenuity. So we'll just start with that one. I've been through several, but this is the one that I've done the deepest dive on. So when I did Edgenuity's open record request and review, I found in their privacy policy where at the very bottom of it, it had this cute little unicorn called Project Unicorn. Well, Edgenuity, all of the SEL from Castle, we know the funders of these are associated with the Gates Foundation and many others. Well, so is Project Unicorn. It is associated with the Dell Foundation as well. It's Dell Foundation. So Dell and Gates are all looking into this, and they're funding it and everything. So they're collecting all this data. So when you go to projectunicorn.com, you'll notice they have a pop-up that comes up. Are you an IT person? You can follow these links everywhere. Well, then you come into this one particular website, and it's called the Common Education Data Standards. And that is a .gov. So you've got ceds.gov.ed, I believe is the number or the web address. They have a file system there that has hundreds and hundreds of drop downs on it of information they're collecting on your kids for your permanent data file. This is where we're at today. SEL, it sounds like the angel of light. It's not. They're collecting so much data on our kids. I probably can't. Probably if you and I spent a whole year diving into this, we probably couldn't know all there is to know.
Yeah. No, you're right. And folks, a lot of what she's talking about, I can vouch for. I've found it in my own research. She's shown me some of what she's been pulling out of these databases and things. It is wild. I had a friend here in our local school district who was ordered by the district to start teaching SEL in his first grade period, and they gave him videos they were supposed to show. And these were videos that normalized homosexuality and transgenderism as if this wasn't just a normal thing, but a good thing. It was actually developed. The idea for this came out of the Fetzer Institute, which is an occult, new age, weird foundation founded by a disciple of Alice Bailey, the founder of the Lucifer Publishing Company. There's some really weird stuff going on here, guys, that we are not being told about. And the data gathering, like Marsha said, is just beyond anything that you can imagine. They are gathering so much information on the children, including on their views, on their attitudes. And one of the goals is not just to collect the data for its own sake, but to manipulate those views. So they see where the children are, where they want them to be, what the objective is. Well, they want them to support homosexuality as one example. And so then they figure out, how do we get the child from there to there? This is going on, folks, and it's all over the country. Of course, the Gates Foundation is involved, and many others. In the last few minutes that we have left, Marsha, how do we deal with this? I mean, our children, of course, cannot resist this kind of highly advanced programming and indoctrination and manipulation. They don't even understand what's happening to them. They certainly don't know better than to hand over all their data to the government. What do we do as parents and as taxpayers in our communities to deal with this?
Well, what I would say to any parent is you definitely need to get an open record request, and you need to not only look at the social emotional learning platform that your child sees, but you need to visualize it from a teacher's perspective too. So you would need the teaching platform to look at, and you would need the student platform to look at. And when they tell you that they can't give it to you because it's on computer, that's not factual. As a parent, you should be able to see any kind of curricula that is in the school system. Open record requests are needed because they have to comply with the law and provide that. Many times, parents they're not even supposed to have to do the open record request. They should be able to just go into a school and see it. But many times they do not want to give you anything. They'll even hide behind FERPA laws to not give you access. That's what they tried to do when I was going in. Now, many of the administrators, though, they absolutely don't understand what all is in this because it's not academic. They're looking at academics over here. And then when I've shown some of these administrators what I've found, they were dumbfounded. And there are a lot of good teachers in school systems. There are a lot of good administrators. Down here, I know great people. But there is this going behind the scenes, and they can't stop it. And it makes me think that maybe the teacher system is different than the student system. And I think that these things need to be evaluated by the parents themselves. I have videos in these programs that shows a transgender man in the Purpose Prep videos, for instance. And I mean, he's teaching the kids how to come out as a homosexual. I have videos of a lot of these different things. So these are things that parents need to see, definitely. And I'd be glad to come back on and show you a lot of those videos or talk anything about any of the rest of it with you. I really appreciate you helping me get the word out because it is definitely needed.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, thank you, Marsha. And so, how do people learn more about Choose Now Inc., your nonprofit?
I have a website, choose-now.org, and they can go on there, and also they can there's my contact information is there as well. We are currently working on a seal of confidence process where it's kind of like the good housekeeping seal of approval, where we actually are doing a process. We're bringing solutions to our community, not just yelling and screaming matches at school board meetings. We're showing them how to get it done. We're doing parent toolkits with forms to show them how to go into a school and say, my child should not have any of these things taught to them. They cannot have access to these programs, including much of the library system, because it's not protected either. So there are so many things that parents can do, and they can contact me there, and I'd love to help.
Excellent. Well, Marsha, thank you so much for what you're doing to raise awareness about this. Folks, SEL, social emotional learning, and the data gathering, when you combine all of this together, you realize something very significant and very dark, very wicked is taking place right now involving our children. And nobody's going to protect your children aside from you, right? If you think the government is going to protect your children, if you think your neighbor is going to protect your children, you're dreaming. So pay attention, folks. Get this information out. Help us share the video out, especially if you know people who have children who may be getting inadvertently sucked into these designs and schemes. And stay tuned. We'll be back with a whole lot more content. Thank you for watching. I'm Alex Newman. It's the New American. Thank you again for being with us, Marsha, and God bless you all.